Hey guys, up there. It's Hayden here with the Economic News channel, and today we'll be talking about Social Security. I'll be going into the history of it, the effectiveness of it for combating poverty, and the other solutions that it can be used for. We're going to start off with a little history about Social Security. The Civil War led to the first Social Security-like program. There was available relief for hundreds of thousands of widows, orphans, along with injured veterans that needed assistance. This program went into effect in the early months of 1776, just before the Declaration of Independence was signed. 1906 was the first year where more people could qualify for benefits. Old age was his qualification. $165 million was spent on military pensions, which in 1894 was 37% of the federal budget. In 1929, the stock market crashed and contributed to the development of Social Security. In 1934, President Roosevelt wanted to implement a Social Security program. The next year, in August of 1935, the Social Security Act was signed and went into effect.
Whoa! Whoa, guys! I just landed on the moon! What's up, guys? It's Jack with the Economic News. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the effectiveness of Social Security in our economy. As you can see with this graph right here, without Social Security, an additional 8.3% of all Americans, which is over 25 million people, would fall below the SPM poverty threshold, which means 25 million more people would be in poverty than they already are. Social Security has provided income and benefits for over 60 million people, including retirees, children, widows, and widowers in their lifetime, and is extremely effective in providing for citizens that no longer can make their own income for whatever reason. Next, we're going to talk about some alternatives to Social Security that could be implemented possibly in the future. The first one is that people can just plan wiser for their future. If they save a certain amount every year, it is possible to be more well off, actually, than when you retire than if you were on Social Security money. And because you won't be paying huge taxes paying for Social Security, then it'll be easier to save your money. Next approach that could be followed, it isn't followed in some countries, is that the United States would pay a universal flat benefit for public funds to all people over a stated age or to all people who are retired. Because the universal benefit would go to everyone who meets the age qualification, there would be no eligibility tests related to the previous contributions or current income would be required. Under this plan, people's ability to retire before age 70 would depend on whether or not they had saved and the arrangements they had made with their employers. So what do politicians think of Social Security? Here we have a quote from Hank Johnson, which is a Democrat in Congress from DeKalb County in Georgia. His quote is that Social Security is just not a government spending program, it is a promise from generation to generation. And then we have a quote from our former president, George W. Bush, from 2001. He's saying, "We will reform Social Security and Medicare, sparing our children from struggles we have the power to prevent." So as you can see, Social Security is looked upon as a very well-off government program and that it helps a lot of people.
And that brings us to the crowning achievement of the Second New Deal and/or the crowning achievement of its communist plot, the Social Security Act of 1935. Social Security included unemployment insurance, aid to the disabled, aid to poor families with children, and of course, retirement benefits. It was and is funded through payroll taxes rather than general tax revenue, and while state and local governments retained a lot of discretion over how benefits would be distributed, Social Security still represented a transformation in the relationship between the federal government and American citizens. Like before the New Deal, most Americans didn't expect the government to help them in times of economic distress. After the New Deal, the question was no longer if the government should intervene, but how it should. For a while, the U.S. government under FDR embraced Keynesian economics, the idea that the government should spend money even if it means going into deficits in order to prop up demand. And this meant that the state was much more present in people's lives. I mean, for some people, that meant relief or Social Security checks. For others, it meant a job with the most successful government employment program, the Works Progress Administration. The WPA didn't just build post offices, it paid painters to make them beautiful with murals. It paid actors and writers to put together plays, and ultimately employed more than 3 million Americans each year until it ended in 1943.